It's the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia. The sky is starting to brighten and we've got an hour and a half of free practice ahead. This is a massive weekend. It's the final weekend of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Championship. All three titles to fight for. The outright championship in the Endurance Series, the Pro-Am Cup and the Silver Cup class as well. I'm joined by John Watson and the stage is set, John, as the day starts to open out.
A brave new dawn here in Barcelona, and just getting a quick glimpse of what the weather is about to give us. Very similar conditions, in fact, to those that we saw just 24 hours ago. And as is the usual case here at Circuit de Catalunya, it is a highly sensitive track to ambient and track temperatures. So expect this session, the 90-odd minutes of it, and there is the new BMW M4. It is competing here not for actual honours, but it could actually win the race, which would be ironic. But anyway, a racetrack could go back to it. Highly sensitive to track and ambient temperatures. Times that we saw yesterday, the 63 FF Orange 1 FFF Racing Team Lamborghini was the quickest. And then in the afternoon, it was the 88 Mercedes Vaca ASP. And those two cars vied, in both sessions to who was winning. There is the BMW. That famous BMW grille is now being replaced with something very much more distinctive.
Supersize grille. This car competing in an invitation class. In fact, not alone, because we've got the Evo version of the Audi R8 LMS that's also not eligible for points. But both cars pointing to the future, of course. Up until now, we've had the BMW M6 GT3, but the M4 has had a couple of race outings already, racing in the long-distance series on the Nürburgring. So got some useful mileage, particularly in the hands of Augusto Farfus and Philipp Eng. But it's a development car, and people watching all around the globe because, quite frankly, John, as we know, the global spread of GT3 is entirely that. It's right around the planet. And car 26, there is the Evo version of the Audi R8 LMS, entered by Santalok Racing this weekend with Marcus Winkelhock, Dennis Lindt and Finley Hutchison driving that car. But again, be good to have a shot with that alongside the contemporary R8 LMS to compare the difference. Yeah,
it's not quite as easy to spot. The BMW does definitely stand out. That distinctive new BMW grille is very clear, whereas the Audi is very much more a refined version of the current Audi that we see, which is the R8 LMS GT3. So that the second of these two cars is the Evo. It just looks, slightly more evolved,
sort of sharpened. And when you look at the rear wing, the sort of swan necks that go up to the rear wing are remarkably different to what you'd be accustomed to on the car that's raced for a number of years now. The standard version. But again, these cars have to keep on moving forward. The manufacturers, of course, want to keep on bringing out slightly different shapes because they need to sell the cars as well.
Well, the 114 Emilio Frey Racing Lamborghini have welcomed back Jack Aitken, the young British driver who we know had a monster accident up at the top of Radio during the Spa 24 Hours, and he's carrying extra weight this weekend because he's got a metal plate attached to his damaged or broken collarbone. I'm sure it won't make much difference, but hopefully, Jack, great to have him back behind the wheel of a race car. I think he found, the first reaction of driving, of course, oh, I've got aches and pains, which I didn't think I had. That's just natural when you get back behind the wheel of a race car, having had a 2.5 month layout due to injury.
I think you're also hypersensitive. You're aware that it may hurt, so you're almost programmed to just consider it's about to hurt. But anyhow, great to have him back because he really did have his cage rattled big time. That's his car. He's not driving at the moment. That's Konsta Lapalainen running in the 114 Lamborghini. Now, take a look at the rear wing, John. Can you spot the differences on the Evo? Because take another look at the side angle. You'll see the swan neck.
Well, for me, it's the
suspended from the back. You see
the main wing stays the way that they roll forward. It's a bit like a wave. It's just a more efficient aerodynamic package. So this is what we are seeing in GT3 racing. The BMW, the M4, is a brand new product altogether. The Audi is the evolution of the existing car. And I mean, around the front there are subtle changes, but in the rear wing is the big obvious one. And the idea is just to allow the air to be more efficient and generate more in conjunction, of course, with the diffuser, which is at the bottom of the car. So then those two items generate the level of downforce that will see this Evo version of the Audi R8 LMS GT3 move onwards and keep pace with the competition.
Yeah, actually, just looking at the rear wing itself, not talking about the struts it's suspended on. It's actually remarkably simple rear wing, which is probably quite a good thing. And the car having to work harder, as you say, with the air travelling underneath it. So that's what the engineers have been working on. Right, who's fastest? Miklas Born is at the top of the pile, the number 40. Early days yet. SPS Automotive Performance, top of the tree. So good for them in their Mercedes. With Oscar Tunyo, second fastest in the black Top Sport WRT Mercedes. So the three-pointed start at the top of the table.
But what is interesting is Miklas Born, on his effectively first flying lap, has gone quicker than Jules Goulion did in the afternoon session Friday afternoon. So the racetrack right now, I would say, is pretty quick, and expect to see. Well, Simon Gachet now has gone even faster, 145.9 in the 87 Mercedes. So yes, again, a NACA ASP car at the top. Ricardo Filler we're watching on screen. So the track is very, very good right now, and probably will remain so as long as the ambient temperatures hover around the middle to high teens.
Okay, just taking a look. So the fastest time yesterday morning, a session that ran the same time as today, 9 until 10 o'clock at Barcelona. 1 minute 45.221 seconds, set by Marco Mapelli, I believe, in the 63 Lamborghini, one of the Orange One FFF Racing Team entries. And now Ricardo Fella in a different Lamborghini, the 14, is really starting to wind up. So what are we seeing going down the infield straight, John?
Coming down into turn 10, and this is the revised turn 10 here at the Circuit de Catalunya. It was a more stop-go left-hand corner. It was revised for the 21 season. I think the general consensus is it's a nicer corner. Whether it offers up any greater overtaking opportunities, we'll have to wait and see. But here we are into these final three corners. And again, there's discussion, has been discussion, as to whether this sequence of corners, which comprises 13, 14, 15, should revert back to the original layout, where in effect turn 13 led into 14, but it was a much, much quicker approach into what is now turn 16, but was turn 14. And there was concern that the runoff on the exit, with the level of performance, I mean, basically a Formula One car was flat out anyway, but even a GT3 car would be getting pretty close to being flat out with its abilities. Something for the future, but we wait to see whether that will ever be returned to its configuration, or it will remain as it is with that rather sort of clumsy turn 13, 14, 15 sequence, which breaks up the rhythm of the last part of the last sector of the lap.
It's clunky, it's inelegant. Yes, it would get my vote. Yes, they may have to make some safety measures around the outside of the circuit, but a full speed run through the final corner, whatever it's called, 14 or 16, would be a great thing to behold. And again, I think that would lead to more overtaking down into turn 1, which is surely the name of the game.
Yeah. An interesting observation, because we're sitting in the commentary booth throughout all these sessions, we don't get to see or hear the cars on track. And I was just wandering around near the exit of turn 16, which is the corner that leads onto the straight. I thought I could hear a Gatling gun. What was that noise? What it was the noise of cars running over the serrated curbing on the exit of turn 16. I couldn't believe the level of noise, and whatever that shock loading that's going into the suspension of the car. And don't forget the tires. And drivers need to be aware that if they abuse a tire and running curbs like that, you can set up a harmonic and whatever. So just a little observation that sitting in the commentary booth we wouldn't have been aware of.
It's funny you should say that, because I did precisely that about 3 years ago here. And again, just thought I'd walk anti-clockwise around the circuit, looking up the slope, and the very same thing through that final corner. Now, Chris Froggatt's got a title to win this weekend. He's leading the Pro-Am series very, very handsomely. One of his teammates, Jonathan Huey, missed the opening round, so he can't win the title. He didn't get the point that Chris did the opening round, but it's a very tidy margin, 18 points, and effectively there are 25 points for a win. So for Froggatt, as long as the chasing Hamaguchi-Keen Lamborghini crew that are 18 points down doesn't win the race, with him having a disaster, has almost got this one in the bag. But it's a strange position for a driver to be in, but at least he's got the choice. Now, very slow-moving Ferrari that Chris had just passed, going through turn 10 up the slope, trying to see if anything is wrong. It seems to have backed off entirely. I think that was the AF Corsa 52 Ferrari, Michels and Bertolini, but wait to see if that makes it back to base.
Well, that Ferrari or whatever has caused Chris Froggatt to lose a significant amount of time in Sector 2. Currently the car is 26th quickest. You know, we're only, what, 10 minutes or so into this session, so wait to see coming across the line. Has he made any changes? No, he's not. 2.2 seconds down on still on Simon Gachet, who's retained that quickest lap, set on his first flying lap, and that was about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, we do have some other changes at the top, but second place now, the Porsche Klaus Bachler, that's the 54 Dynamic Motorsport car, and Dries Van Tor, who's here to try and complete what will be a fantastic trio. He and Charles Weerts have already got the Sprint Cup title. They've got the overall title because they've got enough points across the Sprint and the Endurance Series, but they want to complete the set here this weekend, and they need to find their mojo again. Third fastest, but at Valencia last 2 weekends ago, it just didn't go right for them, and both drivers made mistakes which were not the sort of things you expect from them after these years, John. Seemed a little bit rattled, out of sorts.
Yeah, it's looking further through the field, Max Hofer, and I just caught his name on timing and scoring a second ago, but in the Pro-Am category, we've got a returnee, Jeroen Bleekemolen, in the 488 Rinaldi Ferrari. He currently is 12th quickest in the Pro-Am category. Unsurprisingly, maybe, is the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini Enrique Chavez. That car quickest in Pro-Am, 8th quickest right now. But things are moving forward literally by the lap. There he is, Hofer in the 99 Attempter Racing Audi, and Max Hofer is in 7th position, just dropped down actually one position as we speak.
Well, I think we could expect some quite good things from the 99 car this weekend, because at Valencia a couple of weeks ago, his teammate Dennis Marshall was absolutely mighty. Right, here is a chance to take a look at the BMW M4 GT3 with its distinctive front end, and this is the car that's going to replace, or is replacing, the M6, so it's a smaller body shape than the M6. And John, you're pointing at the screen.
I'm just looking at the bonnet. I mean, what a load of sculpting has been done on the front of the BMW. I mean, it is just an aerodynamic beast, and one will really wonder just where that car will end up in the coming seasons, because for sure it's going to be right on the pace.
Yeah, they've been developing very hard. So the other outside bet in the prime class coming into the pits, that's Phil Keen's Lamborghini. He and Hiroshi Hamaguchi just pointed out 18 points in arrears, but for Phil, it's quite a simple thing. You know, drivers, I think, like simple maths. He knows he's may have a very slight chance. If he wins, he's got an outside chance. If he gets seconds, he could just about squeak in, but he's got to really go for victory, and I think drivers just like to know what they've got to do.
Well, we're looking at a car about to go quickest overall. Felipe Fraga, purple, currently in 10th position, and does go quickest, 1:45.604, and that's getting down to within just about a little over a quarter of a second behind the fastest time set yesterday morning by Marco Mapelli in the 63 Lamborghini.
Impressively for the 88 Dakar ASP Mercedes with Fraga at the wheel, that they were second fastest yesterday morning, but they're already quicker than that by 0.4 of a second. So they've found improvement from day one to day two, but this is the day we really start the counting, and the 88 Dakar ASP crew do have a chance of winning the endurance title, but they're down in 5th place on the points. They're 23 points down. Maximum score they could attain here is 26. So again, a bit like Phil Keen and Hiroshi Hamaguchi in the Pro class, victory is really what they've got to aim for. Nothing else can really truly be relied on. Looking neat and tidy, but with 46 cars out here to play, it's a very, very busy circuit at the moment. We've got times from all apart from 2 of them. We've got the number 20 Mercedes, that's the SPS Automotive Performance car driven by Dominic Baumann, Valentin Pierberg and Martin Conrad, and that is now the only car, because the other one I was looking at was one of the Ferraris, and Dorian Pin, that's the Iron Lynx car. The Ferrari has just set a time at last, so that was late out onto the circuit. The number 83 shared by Sarah Bovey, who's going better and better this year, and Michelle Gatting, who's making her series debut.
And who are also performing to top capacity are the pit lane police, because we've got a speeder, car 97, Oman Racing, has been penalised for pit lane speeding infringement. Thought you might like to know that.
Thank you. That was PC Watson pounding the beat, but keeping an eye. But in fact, we've got so many cars on the screen, it's actually quite hard to pick out these messages, because to see a full screen, I mean, it's a real accolade to the championship. It's hard to imagine that this is racing through a pandemic, the second year of the pandemic, but these fields, I think, astonishing. You know, testament to SRO for making this series happen, not just here but in various other championships around the world. And exciting race coming up in the States. Indianapolis, 8 hours for the Intercontinental GT challenge. That's got a field of almost this size, 41 cars, the biggest GT field they've ever had at Indianapolis. That should be a cracker.
And that's going to be a tight race, tight circuit as well, as we watch Felipe Fraga, second of these two Mercedes there, and he's been on the headlight flasher as we go now to Mad Panda, number 90, and that is Yusuf Pahaka. No, it's not. It's usually a change of driver very quickly there. So the transponder, no doubt, had been.
Warning flag, track limits more than 3 times.
Okay, this is clearly something that's going to be mentioned a lot. That's the 16. It's the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, Clement Schmidt, Kiko Galbiati and Tim Zimmerman. And let's see who's at the wheel at the moment. 16, John. Race to see who can. It's Tim Zimmerman at the moment, the German racer. Down in 35th position, but track limits, well, the drivers were querying it in the driver briefing yesterday. Where can we go on the green? Where can we not? But anyhow, they now know where they're going. And if a driver's going off, it's totally their fault. You know, we talk about this race in, race out, John. Here are your limits. This is what you have to not exceed. Sometimes you have no choice. If you're about to have a collision with another car, you go over. But they'll push as hard as they can. Yes,
it's the nature of a competitor or race driver to use whatever the limits are. And here, particularly coming out of turn 3, is an area where it's easy to transgress. Also coming onto start-finish straight, though the outside of that turn 16 is not a sort of no man's land. As we look into the Mad Panda garage, as we watch the car coming into turn, the rather, you know, it's a frustrating downhill turn 5.
Well, that's Ezekiel Perez Compact picking up the pace. Rick Broiker's watching on in the garage, but the target's moved because I said Dominic Baumann's car hadn't set a time. Well, it's set the time now, gone to the top of the charts, 1 minute 45.468 seconds. So much like Simon Gachet, the first earlier in the session, the first flying lap, Dominic Baumann's banged it in there. We've got 46 cars out on having set times, and Baumann's is the fastest of all. Who else is moving?
Well, Charlie Eastwood in the 97. Yes. We talked about the Oman Racing getting a penalty in the pit lane. Well, Charlie Eastwood has dragged performance out of that car, and he's now, again, he's the second in the Pro-Am, because it is a Pro-Am car that is quickest right now with Dominic Baumann. But Charlie Eastwood in the 97 Oman Racing Aston Martin has dragged that up into 6th position, just 9/10 of a second presently behind fastest time set by the number 20 Mercedes.
Okay, but it is Mercedes at the top of the charts, 3 Mercedes at the top. Then we have the Porsche of Klaus Bachler from Dynamic Motorsport, then Dries van Toor's Audi, then the Aston Martin, showing this great variety. Top Lamborghini is in 8th place overall. Marco Mapelli, the 63 car that was first yesterday morning, second in the afternoon, bound to be competitive, and a great mix of cars. Top Ferrari, Benja Ites in 12th place overall. And the top Bentley have to go rather further down. 27th place for Stefan Tribudini, the 107 entry from CMR. So great spread of cars. And the BMW is down in 32nd position, 2 places down on the McLaren. Rod Bell is at the wheel of that car. Wait to see that one pick its way up the order. Super fast in the hands of Ben Barnicoat 2 weekends ago at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia.
Well, teams will be going through a whole host of different things they want to try, not necessarily going for a night time, because while qualifying on Sunday will be around a similar kind of time as we are now, but the race itself will be later in the afternoon, when we know that this is, I said, track sensitive, tire sensitive, temperature sensitive little circuit. But Dries van Toor, as ever, bad weekend for the Audi pairing, Dries van Toor, Robin Frijns and Charles Weerts in Valencia. It was one of those weekends where I think they want to forget all about it.
Yeah, I think they had to park it. We saw them looking slightly chastened. We handed our park cars back at the airport. Their tails were between their legs, but, you know, they get to bounce back very quickly. One thing that's catching my eye at the moment, I've been looking for the number 51 Ferrari, the championship leading car. It's down in 23rd position, but maybe for that Iron Lynx crew, that's Pierre Guidi, Colm Ledegaard and Nicholas Nielsen, they are doing what you're saying, John. They're working through a programme, because yesterday they were in the top 10, I think, in both of the sessions. They were competitive, but really those numbers, the 63 Lamborghini and the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, were the gold standard. And at the moment we've got the 88 car in 2nd place overall. Felipe Fraga set that time, and the 63 car in the top 10 in 9th position. But it's the 51 car, the championship leading Iron Lynx Ferrari, I'm on the lookout for. Looking for a quick time from them. And
looking at a different brand, Porsche have got 2 cars in the top 6. We got Klaus Bachler in 4th position. We've now got Mathieu Jaminet in the 22 Porsche up into 6th position. And just looking down, Tommy, there's a number of driver team pairings. For example, the second or the third quickest of the Pro-Am now was the Barnicoat Motorsport Lamborghini.
Warning flag to car 22. Track limits more than 3 times.
Oh, well, that's Mathieu Jaminet behind the wheel of the 22 Porsche.
Cutting corners to get that time, perhaps, but anyhow, good for 6th at the moment. Nearly a second down, though, on that great time by, it's now Martin Conrad in the number 20 Mercedes, but it was Dominic Baumann quick out of the traps for SPS Automotive Performance. 1 minute 45.468 seconds, so a quarter of a second, as John pointed out, slower than the best of yesterday's morning session, which was the 63 Orange 1FF Racing Team Lamborghini.
I think what's going on right now amongst the teams is they're circling or cycling through all 3, or in some cases just 2 drivers, because when you go into qualifying, these are the conditions they're going to be contending or confronted with, and therefore give all 3 or all 2 drivers the opportunity to experience what it might be like 24 hours down the road from now, rather than letting one driver do the bulk of the driving and then leaving your other 2 drivers somewhat in the dark, or maybe sort out a car they haven't had a feel for.
And just taking a look, okay, we've got a Pro-Am car at the top of the field, the number 20 Mercedes from SPS Automotive Performance. The top Silver Cup car is in 3rd place now. It's been a recent climb. Thomas Drouet, the 87 Mercedes, but his car isn't featuring in that Silver Cup battle. That's being led by Fella Fontana and Aitken, who've almost got the series in the pocket for the Silver Cup class in their Lamborghini. Their car's been doing well. One car that caught my eye just a short while ago, they just changed the driver, the 77 Lamborghini from Barnicoat Motorsport, 12th place overall, Pro-Am entry. Good run for them, but
yeah, at one point they were, I think actually maybe they were the quickest of the Pro-Am entries, but that's been eclipsed by the 20 Mercedes, the SPS Automotive car, the time set by Dominic Baumann, who is the pro in that car. Nevertheless, the 77 Lamborghini is probably more in the spirit of what you might describe as a Pro-Am car. Nevertheless, good position right now for that team, and a very competitive category. Charlie Eastwood is 2nd quickest in the Pro-Am category. He's been demoted 1 position by the 22 Porsche a few moments ago. Not a lot of change taking place right now in terms of who's doing what in the top 10 or who's doing what in the top 20. Maro Engel, car we saw a fortnight ago, dominant, completely dominant in Valencia in the final round of the Sprint Championship. It's all the way down in 20th position. But yeah, don't worry, that'll be at the front when it comes to it. Well,
they were all at sea in practice in Valencia. Suddenly came good when they got to qualifying. They've been scratching their heads and banged in phenomenal lap times. Right, Nicky Katzberg going nowhere fast. His car in the pits, slowest of all. He's down by 3.3 seconds. So we've got to keep an eye out on the number 35 BMW from Walkenhorst Motorsport, shared with Martin Topchik and Thomas Neubauer. Very quick drivers. Now, the 51 Ferrari, the championship leading car, sitting in the pits, sitting outside the top 10, in fact outside the top 20, 24th position. So they've got to get out. They've got plenty of time. This is a 90-minute session to get out and set their time.
Suspect they're doing a little bit of preparation, maybe putting a fresh set of rubber, a fresh set of pads into the Ferraris. Look at Rob Bell.
Again, a very quick car, potentially quick in times, not improving yet for Rob Bell. He's down in 33rd position, 2.2 seconds down on the ultimate pace, but this car was setting the ultimate pace a couple of weekends ago. Of course, this circuit very different indeed to the circuit Ricardo Tormo, certainly more crowded with 46 cars. So Rob Bell, look, he's 6/10 down on that car's best. There's no attitude of speed out of that car at the moment, John.
No, and just looking at the car coming through the exit of turn 4, it didn't look like it is planted in the manner we are accustomed to seeing it. So one might suspect that the team, the Giotto Motorsport team, are running on a set of tires that's maybe seen better days, and they're saving what they want for when it matters, which is qualifying, and then of course for the 3-hour endurance event on Sunday.
Yeah, I think following that line, we can understand there's going to be a big shake-up when we get to qualifying. But today we've got 2 track sessions. We've got this one, 9 until 10:30 here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Then they come back out at 13:40 for just pre-qualifying, a 1.5-hour session. We'll see where the pace goes there.
Well, Rob Bell is up significantly in that second sector on this current lap. He is 33rd.
Looks like he's starting to string it together. So yes, his best middle sector. So maybe it was the start of it's almost the pre-flyer. This would be the flyer. He's got a car not too far up the track ahead of him. Doesn't improve on 33rd overall, but starting to wind it up. And actually, it's so close. If he finds half a second, he's going to pick his way up a good dozen places or so. So keep an eye out. But the target time still 1 minute 45.468. This is just a free practice session, but it's about getting the setup for the weekend. And the day started grey, but it is beginning to lighten a bit, and I dare say the track temperature, John, will continue to rise up. And it looks as though Jota not looking as though they're really going for perhaps bedding in brakes.
Well, it's hard to tell what they're doing, but certainly the car isn't telling me that they're on a lap that's going to maybe put them into the top 10 or the top 6. So part of the process teams will go through is they've got sets of brake pads that they want to have prepared. Not that they need to change pads during the 3-hour event, but it's all a little bit of the preparation that teams need to carry out. And doing it in this session, well, that's their choice to do it in this session. They could have done it in the session later on when track temperatures are going to be different. But that might be a point when then teams are looking at doing their race preparation, so that as the track transitions from these conditions to warmer afternoon conditions, they've gone with the track. It is a case very much of you have to chase the track here rather than waiting for the track to come to you. And it is one of the sort of anomalies, one might say, a frustration of the Circuit de Catalunya, that it is so temperature sensitive.
Of course, when we get to qualifying, it will be at exactly the same time tomorrow. It'll be starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, but and qualifying at the front end of the grid, really, really vital in any field of GT3 cars. But here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, you have to work your overtaking manoeuvres, so end up a few rows further back and you've really made yourself have a big struggle. But let's go down to the pit lane and join Gemma, who's going to have the first interview of the day.
Ben, we've seen you out on track there. I believe you're bedding in brakes, right?
Yeah, well, we went for the first run, and then now we actually went for it that time. So struggling a little bit at the moment. Track's quite slippy here this week, which is quite uncommon. Barcelona's been a high grip track for the last times we've been here. So yeah, we've got a fair bit of work to do, in all honesty. But you know, we've got a great team behind us. We've had a strong car all year, so I'm sure we'll sort it out.
I'm hearing the grip's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a high brake track. You know, you get some good top speeds going into turn 1 and also turn 10 down the back. So we were struggling with brakes yesterday, so that's why we decided to put new brakes on the car this morning. But yeah, obviously they require some bedding as well. So we probably compromised our new tyre run a little bit. So on outright pace, not quite representative on the leaderboard. But yeah, you know, we've always got to do these things. You always have to work harder to be at the top, so it's never easy to get there, and that's all we're going through right now, just trying our best to chip away at it and find little bits in every area.
Thank you very much.
So Ben Barnicoat there explaining all, but just bear in mind that yesterday they were 12th in the morning, 17th in the afternoon, so sort of in the hunt, but at the moment sitting down in 33rd position. But importantly, as we saw in the background of that interview, John, the car had come into the pits being worked on for Jota. But the 51 Ferrari are leading the championship tidily, and Alessandro Pierguidi, the last couple of years have been very good for him. A lot of great success, and I think back to Paul Ricard a couple of years ago where he pulled it out of the bag just magically, John. He's just such a sweet spot for Ferrari, for Alessandro Pierguidi.
Yeah, very much. I remember looking at the Ferrari right now, currently 25th, and not seeing any further improvements in the first and second sectors. Comes across start-finish line. Well, any minute now, and he stays in 25th position. The car looks as if it's maybe carrying a fairly high level of fuel load. Why they want to do that at this time of day, if that is the case, it doesn't look as if it's on tippy toes. It's not. It looks lazy. That's maybe the way I would best describe it, which is not what you'd expect the Ferrari, particularly the 51 Ferrari, to look like, especially with Alessandro Pierguidi behind the wheel. So again, a team that's going through a load of pre-race preparation, and again, I no doubt will cycle through their drivers in time.
Yeah, I think probably doing exactly what Ben Barnicoat explained, taking the pain now for greater benefit later on. But what a year Pierguidi, Ledegaard, Nielsen had, with victory in the Spa 24 Hours, the jewel in the crown of GT racing, and last year claimed the Endurance Championship, right literally in the final run to the last flag of the season. But for Pierre Guidi, Nielsen and Ledegaard, they've got to work hard this weekend, because it's Mercedes filling the top 3 positions at the moment. It's the 20 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes AMG at the top of the charts, and then 2 from ACA ASP, the 88 car that was so quick yesterday in the morning and the afternoon, again today. In fact, across the 3 practice sessions, it was second in the first one, first in the second line, second in the third. That's looking good. And the sister car, the 87 car, Thomas Drouet, set the time in that. They are the only runners under 1 minute 46 seconds.
An improvement from the 159 Aston Martin. Nicolas Schergaard is the only car right now that has made an improvement in the last number of laps, so that's up into 10th position. That's a Silver Cup car, and in fact that might be second, I think second in Silver Cup currently, because Drouet in the 87 Mercedes, that car, the time was set by Simon Gachet earlier in the session.
Third in the Silver Cup, just spotted in 8th place overall, so just 2 positions further up the order. The number 40 entry, SPS Automotive Performance, having a good day, started by Miklas Born, Jordan Love at the wheel, and Yannick Metz will be in the 3rd. So for the SPS crew, their cars 1st and 8th, they'll be rather pleased with that. Don't expect them to stay there though, because these times will start to go quicker. Drivers are being cycled through the order.
Flag to car 159, track limits more than 3 times.
Okay, John, it's because you highlighted it. You picked it out, and
there we go. The car has found itself up in 10th position, but at the same time, black and white flag given to car 159 for disrespecting track limits, but no time removed. So it's just a warning to the 159 team. Garage 59. As we look at Matteo Drudi, 38th. Again, a position that's totally Tempter Racing Audi way beyond where one would expect to see Matteo Drudi. Christopher Mies will be in that car as well, so it's going to be a competitive car. And the 3rd driver will be Schornhorst, but it is Matteo Drudi presently. And just looking at the rear wing of the existing car, in fact there are similarities.
Well, the main thing is those stays approach from behind on the Evo, whereas this one, the stays are ahead of the wing, and the others, they come in from behind, and it tidies up the aerodynamics onto the wing, one would suggest, with them being moved to the back. Right, let's talk about the invitation class. We've been talking about the Evo version of the Audi, and at the moment that is in Markus Winkelhock's hands, 18th position overall. That's winning the battle, because the M4 BMW, also in the invitation classes, 7 places further back. Augusto Farfus at the wheel.
Somebody kicked up a shed load of dust on the exit of turn 16.
And apparently there was Gounon kicking up the dirt, finding the edge. So anyhow, keeping nobody moved to stop, but let's go down to the pits to hear the thoughts of Gounon.
Jules, looking good there. Mercedes in the top 3 and getting into the 145.
Yeah, for sure it looks promising for the Mercedes at the moment. You know, in free practice we never know who put in new tires and stuff. We are working a lot on our race balance, because there is so much degradation on this track that I believe, and we all believe, that the race will be, let's say the key moment of the race will be the end of the race, the end of the stint. So we are working on this rather than having a very fast car for quali. The car felt good this morning, so let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. There's still some work to be done in terms of the title.
Sorry?
There's still some work to be done in terms of the title.
Yeah, there is a lot of work to be done. We're not going to change the past, but we lost some points in Spa, unfortunately. But look, as I told you yesterday, we are the outsider. We are 23 points behind. We have nothing to lose. And as you know, Lelo and maybe a bit less Felipe and myself, we're going to give it a full push. We're going to try to win this race, and then it's out of our hands. So let's focus on our job. We want to do the best as possible, and if we win it, then we will have done everything.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So, well done, Gemma, for catching up with Jules Gagnon. It is the simple mathematical equation. If you're that far behind, 23 points down, 25 points to win, all you can do is go to win. But right now, you really sense they're looking forward. But every session, the 88 car, the Mercedes Smacker ASP has been quick. It's second fastest again this morning. And with that driver lineup, it's so strong. Raffaele Marcello, Felipe Fraga, Jules Gagnon, they're all champion drivers.
mean, it's a top car, top driver lineup. All they can do is control their own destiny. And a part of that is doing the preparation that Jules Gagnon was explaining and thinking about the race, the tyre degradation, how that's going to have a bearing. And of course,
Warning flag to car 163. Track limits more than 3 times.
well, 163 ML Racing, and that right now is Giacomo Altoe. That car has gone actually 4th quickest. It's been there for the last 3 laps. But white flag, black and white flag for disrespecting. So again, another warning going to a car that's just recorded a quick time. We saw that a few minutes earlier with Nikolai Shelgaard in the 159 Aston Garage 59 entry, that they set a very good time and then were given that warning message. So clearly track limit abuses. This is up at turn 9, the exit of turn 9, running down to the revised turn 10. Alessio Rivera in the sister car to the 51. Iron Lynx Ferrari, 3 Iron Lynx cars here this weekend.
But I think it's good we're highlighting this 71, because I think this is a car that could have a role in the championship. Players, if it can act as sort of rear gunner, so to speak, for the 51 car, the sister car, the black and white Iron Lynx entry, then that could really help the championship chances. Already very strong championship chances for Pierre Guidi, Ledogar and Nielsen. But that 71 car, the one with the yellow flanks, Callum Elott, Alessio Rivera, Antonio Fuoco, 3 super quick drivers in that car, and I think it's going to have a big role to play.
Giacomo Altoe in the Lamborghini that's just received a track limits warning, so now he's coming down into not just following cars on the racing line, but 2 further cars at pit lane exits. So any future lap improvements or even getting close to the time, that 146.1, which was set about now 5-6 minutes ago, going to be very difficult indeed.
Well, car 38, the McLaren, the sole McLaren here for Jota, has not been that fast on the track, as Ben Barnicoat explained, but it has potentially been fast in the pit lane, John, which isn't a good thing. So they're under investigation. So for the stewards, there's an awful lot of things to consider, but track limits is the main one in this super busy session at the moment. How many people are transgressing?
A bit concerned. We're still looking down to the slowest car, still that number 35 BMW, Nicky Katzberg. Car has in the pits is lap. I just want to see the number of laps. Well, it's had 12 laps in total, but not really set a representative time. So clearly there is an issue with that car. And I'm just looking out of the booth window. There's a lot of, I mean, I know it's not a bad looking day, but the cloud base is relatively low, and whether that's going to clear through, it is due to clear through and be a warmer and brighter afternoon. But right now, it's on the threatening side, I would have thought.
Yeah, the grey clouds that started to part at the outset of this session. The sky behind our commentary position, which is in the grandstand looking across towards the pit lane. It's bright to our right, which is over the final corner of the circuit, dark to the left if we look down to the sort of turns 3, 4, 5, 6 complex over to our left position. Number 163 Lamborghini puts another lap on the board, but not a quick lap. They've done their times, and I think we're not seeing a lot of change at the top, John, because they could see with their first drive of what the car could do, and thereafter they're pounding the laps through. But yes, definitely worth pointing out that 35 Walkenhorst Motorsport BMW. That's the BMW M6, of course. The M4 is the one running the invitation class, and that has not been getting the laps in as it would have wanted. So, for Lamborghini, things are looking very good indeed. So let's go down and hear from Marco Mapelli.
Marco, it looks like you've finished for the session. Why?
Yes, yesterday we did quite a big amount of job. And today, as we're running with the tire championship, we don't have so many tires left since the beginning of the year. So we decided to do just a few checks this morning. Then we concentrate the job this afternoon for the race pace, so we are fine like this.
And you're happy with the setup of the car and the performance?
Yeah, also today with different condition, I think we are in a good spot, but it's still always a question mark till tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's such a competent crew, the 63 crew, Marco Mapelli, Mirko Bortolotti and Andrea Caldarelli, but they've effectively parked with 50 minutes remaining in this 1.5 hour session.
I mean, that's an unusual situation for a team, but clearly just on the tyre side, they want to preserve everything they've got. But the car was quickest in this session 24 hours ago with Marco Mapelli behind the wheel. They were second quickest in the afternoon session with Mirko Bortolotti behind the wheel. So they've got a car setup, which is clearly a setup dialed into the circuit. But as you heard Ben Barnicoat saying, he felt the circuit was slippery compared to other times he's been here. So whether the track will change back to slightly more grip or whether it'll become further more slippery, we don't know. That is what you get here at the Circuit de Catalunya.
Famously tricky. One person who has made it work on his return to racing, Jack Aitken, just suddenly being the first person to move into the top 10 for a long time, up into 8th place, the 114 Lamborghini from Emil Frey Racing. He's sharing with Artur Rougier and Consta Lapalainen, so very cosmopolitan driver lineup, but he's now within a second of that fastest time, still belonging to the number 20 SPS Automotive. So one of the trickiest corners on the circuit is turn 9, top of the hill. Let's look at the race vision powered by AWS. Fastest through there, it's the Evo Audi. Finlay Hutchison, 6 kilometres an hour. That rear wing is better than we thought, John. 6 kilometres an hour faster than Rob Bell in the McLaren at the top of the hill. And the 88 Acura ASP Mercedes, the only other one, over 160 kph. That's an astonishing advantage.
And that's the sort of thing that maybe I wouldn't have expected Audi to want to make public, because clearly there's a major aerodynamic gain in one of the more demanding. I mean, that's probably, I think, the best corner on the racetrack. Uphill, blind apex, carry speed into it.
And then carry speed down the straight as well.
That's right, down the hill, down into turn 10. So 6 kilometres advantage, clear air between the pursuing field.
What's that? Oh, it's the opening of the Audi order book. In the paddock. Come here, come on, 6 kph faster through turn 9. Such a great corner. It's, you know, brilliant when you have a bit of onboard footage through there. You realise how little the drivers can see when they approach it, John, up the hill.
Looking for a little bit of track space. The Santa Locard 825. So that was just getting himself into position now to start a lap. There was maybe the reason there were 3-4 cars directly ahead. So did the right thing. There was nobody behind, so no issues for cars being impeded. As we look at the 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari continuing on down in 40th position right now. Jonathan Wee behind the wheel. So he is the first of that group of cars. He's got, in relative terms, he's got one car maybe a couple of hundred yards down the road.
It's funny how suddenly the traffic can part a little bit. So running around the first part of the lap at the top of the hill, and he's going to be coming to the left and down the hill, sweeping back towards the rear of the paddock. But there's much more gradient change than a lot of people realise. If you walk the circuit at Barcelona, Catalunya, it is very hilly indeed, even though we're in rolling hills, John, to the north of the city. But there's more than it appears on television, that's for sure.
Well, cameras do tend to flatten perspective out up the hill into turn 9. This is the corner where we have seen the Audi Evo produce that rather massive gain over the following cars. Down the hill into the revised turn 10. It's just it's a softer apex. It used to be more of a tight, then opened up. So it allows the idea is to allow a better flow as Jonathan Wee gets an armful of opposite lock as he transitioned through 11 and 12, then down into this final chicane. When people, you either avoid the curbs or you really monster them, and whichever way you do it, I mean, ideally you'd avoid the curve because it stops the car getting unsettled. But maybe some people believe if you hit the curb and take your punishment for doing it, that there is time to be gained doing it that way.
Another car that's finally put in a quicker time. Lucas Stoltz. We were noticing that the number 4 Mercedes, the HRT car, the Hout Racing Team, Maro Engel,
warning flag to car 2. Track limits more than 3 times.
Car number 2, well, that's the Get Speed. Well, they can't hide. They're in the bright sort of acid yellow livery. The Get Speed Mercedes number 2. Jim Pla, Olivier Grotz, and Florian Scholz. But just to finish my point, Lucas Stoltz, we were worried that the HRT number 4 Mercedes wasn't shining like another of the other likely front runners. Just outside the top 10 now. Lucas got up to 11th place overall. So maybe they've worked through their program. Now they're seeing what the car can do. But Earl Bamber, the Kiwi, out in that 22 Porsche zone. Porsche well represented, 2 of them in the top 7 runners.
10, track limits more than 3 times.
Car 10 is the Bussonginian BMW M6 GT3, Jens Liebhauser, Karim Oj and Jens Klingmann.
So, I mean, it's all through the field that we're seeing track limit abuses being notified. And it is mostly, I suspect, on the exit of turn 3, that very, very long turn 3. And, of course, it's a flat exit. And it's very easy to think, oh, I can sneak another half a metre or whatever. Same coming out of turn 9 and then finally turn 16. So, but mostly I think it's coming out of turn 3 where drivers are letting their car, they're freeing up the car. That's what I'm trying to say. And who kicked up the dust coming through turn 16 there was the next car up from Earl Bamber. We didn't quite catch the car, we just got the residue of it. There you can see in the background that was a fairly big drop off of a wheel, and you need to be careful. If you drop a wheel off too far on the exit of turn 16, you could just find the car rotating.
Last warning to car 32, track limits, last warning 32.
Well, this is Dries van Toor, Charles Weerts and Robin Frijns. They had a rotten weekend 2 weekends ago in the Sprint Cup finale. They already had that title in the bag, though, but they're looking to add the Endurance Cup to make it a trio, but these things are a bit of a nuisance. There is the 32 car with the orange band up over its nose, being chased by Lucas Stoltz in the number 4 Mercedes from HRT that's just moved up into 11th place overall, showing a good turn of speed. Just a thought, John, on that final corner. We've got beyond the red and white curbing, we've got the green strip, and then that ends. We get another green strip, but it's grass, different level of grip.
35, track limits more than 3 times.
So that's the Valkenhaus Motorsport BMW, Nicky Katzberg, Martin Tomczyk, Thomas Neuber. That car has finally moved its way up
to 40th position, so it's not too big a shake. But interesting that 32 Audi front runner moving out of the way for another car that will be a front runner is almost everywhere it goes. That number 4 pink, white and blue BWT liveried Mercedes from the Hout Racing team, but there was nothing for the 32 car. Maybe the message was coming through already. You've just got to stay within the white lines on the circuit. You just had your final warning, so backing off in the 32 Audi. Who's at the wheel of that at the moment, John? Just having a little look up and down the screens to have to look a long way down to find them.
Yeah, I mean, there's no change. Lucas Stoltz in the pit lane anyway, so he's
it's Charles Weerts.
completed. Charles Weerts is behind the wheel of the 32 Audi, and that was given a track limit warning as well. I don't know whether it was Weerts or the other two drivers. Have we seen Robin Frijns behind the wheel of the car yet? So I don't think we have this morning.
I don't think we have either. I think that he's probably about to take over now, 6th on the charts. Top Audi by a big margin. The next one is Dennis Marshall's 99. The Tempo Racing Audi down in 17th place overall. So Charles Weerts in the mix in this car, the car on the screen. Looking like a better lap, but it's a really busy process at the moment. We've got just over 41 minutes remaining in this 90-minute session, in and out of pits. Almost every time we look to our right, there's 1 or 2 cars entering the pit lane, others at the same time kicking the dust up on the exit of the final corner. But at the moment, again, it looks like a car with Charles Weerts at the moment working its way through the programme, John. Not dramatic at all.
I think what might be described as the principal competitors in all 3 categories are doing that. Wow. Charles Weerts, what are you doing? I mean,
warning flag to car 38, track limits more than 3 times.
Okay, that's the McLaren getting warning limits, but Charles Weerts certainly got a limit warning there when he clipped the curb, going through that sequence of 7 and 8, and he clipped the curb hard on the inside of 7, but set the car into a bouncing fit, and then he had to get off the throttle a little bit. So again, I suspect the optimum setup on the 32 Audi is yet waiting to be given to the drivers. And Charles Weerts, you can see his eyes as he makes his way through that nasty little 14-13 sequence out of 15 now. And again, having the back, he caught the curb on the exit as he now goes into turn 16, watching him coming while he's in the pit lane. So in fact, I think he might have clipped the curb as he came out of, then dived across into the pit lane. So well, not loosening the shoulder straps, which you're allowed to do before you come to a stop. You must not undo the belts before you come to a stop. So his run for this time is complete. He's going to get out, and this might be Robin Frijns about to get into the 32 Audi for the first time. A seat insert, because there's a difference in size and height between the 2 Audi drivers.
That had all the hallmarks of an in-lap, didn't it? They were working through the programme. He lost concentration. There I was saying it's not dramatic at all. 2 corners later,
Warning flag
Charles
to car 40. Track limits more than 3 times. Warning flag.
Okay, a long list of drivers. So the 32 Audi, the car that could, for Charles Weerts and Dries van Toor, land on the treble, whatever you want to call it. The Sprint Cup title, the Endurance Cup title, that's the one they've still got to win, and the overall title. They've got 2 of those in the bag, but they've got to work through their programme here. They're in the mix, they're the top Audi, they're 6th fastest overall, but with Scouts, clouds now starting to really hang over the circuit, conditions continue to change. It's becoming a little bit muggier.
Christian Engelhardt in the 54 Porsche. So the last lap that car was 147.7. So that's, you know, what the best part of 2 and a bit seconds away from the still remaining fastest lap is a 20 Mercedes-Benz. Dominic Baumann.
Car 38 and 16, last warning for track limits. Last warning, 38 and 16.
So that's Grasso Racing Lamborghini and the 38 Jota Sport. So who's behind the wheel of the 38 as we look on and try to find? It's Ben Barnicoat back behind the wheel. So I don't know whether it was Ben Barnicoat or whoever was previously in the car, but there's now the young British driver. So they've been given further warnings, final warnings. Then it's up to see the headmaster.
Yeah, well, I don't think Oliver Wilkinson has had it. Ollie's had a run yet, so he may well cop the flak come the end. Great gaggles of cars in runs around the circuit. Oh, but Engelhardt trying a little bit hard there and finding his braking point wasn't where he thought in the dynamic Porsche. But this is a car that's been going pretty well throughout the whole season and sitting 5th on the tables. The time set by Klaus Bachler when it was actually good for 2nd at that point before a few other cars went faster. But Porsche actually, I think, looking pretty well balanced around the circuit. But this is such a tricky circuit, John. You've got these tight, twisty parts like at the end of the lap. And then you've got some fairly decent open corners, and the best, as we've been talking about earlier, is still turn 9 at the crest of the hill. Coming to complete a lap, there'll be no improvement. Look at those sector splits, 2 seconds down on their very best in the middle sector alone, and even more at the end of the lap. So again,
just looking at the amount of rubber and debris that's off the line, and this is only going to build up and build up as certainly we go into the 3-hour endurance event on Sunday.
So teammates
Car
are watching
14,
on.
warning flag. Track limits more than 3 times.
I thought we'd already had the final warning, but certainly the warning's coming thick and fast for the number 40 SPS Automotive Performance. Yannick Mettler, Jordan Love and Nicholas Bourne. And for Dynamic Motorsport, it's all about just watching on, trying to work out where their car's going to go. Klaus Bachler, Matteo Caroli and Christian Engelhardt. Engelhardt at the wheel at the moment. So much to analyse, and with the teams working very hard to make sense of this circuit as it keeps on changing its level of grip. The temperature is changing. It started to rise when we had sunshine earlier, and it's probably not rising at all now with grey clouds right overhead at the circuit. Miguel Ramos, well, they had a great run to win the Pro-Am version of the Sprint Cup a couple of weekends ago, and clearly with Adrian Amstutz back on good form this weekend, that's a car that could go pretty well. It's sitting 4th in the Pro-Am Cup class now as the 52 Ferrari has moved ahead of them. That's one shed with just two drivers, Louis Michels and Andrea Bertolini. They're going to shoulder the burden of doing the whole race. Now let's look. The race vision powered by AWS. Top speed, it's Jens Lieberhauser. It's BMW all the way, John. Jens Lieberhauser in the 10. That's the Buisson-Ginian car. And then the 2 Walkenhorst Motorsport versions, David Pittard and Nicky Katzberg. None of those are the M4, the Evo car for next year, but for BMW, very good at the speed track. 274k.
Yeah, and again, that's pretty consistent across the 3 BMWs. A small gain over the rest of the field, but nevertheless, it gives them the benefit of that little bit of straight line speed advantage. The difficulty is how quick are they off turn 16, and can they then use that speed where they're only gaining it at the very end of the straight. Sometimes if you've got good exit speed and you're quicker the first half of the straight, it can allow you to consolidate or get in position.
But having this fabulous top speed is a good thing, but on a circuit where there isn't a lot of top speed running, it's not your biggest, greatest tool, and the best of those BMWs is down in 24th overall, so second half field. It's the one driven by
look
David
at the track
Pittard.
off the line
Already.
It's just, really, anybody who wants to make a pass coming down the first half of the straight. It's going to have to go over that, and then they're going to pick up all the debris on their set of tyres. And when they get down to turn 1 and they try to turn in, there ain't going to be much response from the front wheels.
No, you certainly feel the marshals may be more busy than that they'd been hoping for down at turn 1. It's going to be very difficult. But you know, any driver who's not in the car at the moment, John, will be sitting in the garage. They'll be looking at the images that we're seeing and trying to just glean where the debris is lying. But we saw a driver bouncing over the curb. His name is Weerts, but he could win the treble this weekend. He's with Gemma.
Charles, you've just swapped places with Robin. How's the car feeling?
Well, I think it was better than yesterday. We did some good improvements. Still some improvements to go, but yeah, we did a good step compared to yesterday. So let's try to keep it up like that and build on our weekend.
Obviously, there is still the possibility of the triple title in the balance this weekend. Are you feeling the pressure?
Well, for sure, we are thinking about a championship. It would be amazing, but we know that all cards are not in our hands. So we'll just try to get the best results and hope for the best.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting what Charles was saying. Yesterday they were 20th and 13th, not the sort of positions you expect to find that 32 Audi, but they come here with a 13-point deficit to that 51 Ferrari of Colm Nedergaard, Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Pierguidi. So they'll leave the maths to teams, but they know they've got to be on the podium if they're going to have a chance at or 25 points for a win.
Well, this is on board with Robin Frijns in the 32 Audi. And those marks on the screen, those are not raindrops. They have tear-offs on the windscreens, and those marks are actually marks that have hit the tear-off. I mean, we see it on the camera lens. The driver will not notice it because look at the debris in the side of the racetrack. The driver will be looking so far down the road. His depth of field is so much more focused, you know, hundreds of meters down, so that doesn't come into his line of vision. But the debris around the racetrack is building and is considerable.
Really is, even through the slightly pockmarked screen, one can see it on the right-hand side on the main straight. And as John pointed out, you go down that inside line and you get to the first corner. A, it's not the best line going in, and B, you're going to have rather more trouble getting any grip out of your tyres and getting the braking done. So round through 1, 2, this is turn 3, and it really does go on forever, John. And then you get the short blast down to turn 4.
And it's this part of the circuit, I think, where most drivers are getting those notifications for track limit abuses. And it's just the perspective you're seeing from on board Robin Frijns down into turn 5. Always a difficult corner. It falls away just in the apex.
We've got 30 track limits more than 2 times.
So that's James Poole, Stuart Hall, Benjamin Gota, a sister car to this 32. Up through turn 7 and 8, up the climb up into turn 9. This is where the Evo version of the Audi, which you're riding on board, was 6 kilometers quicker through the corner than any other car, and then down the hill into this revised turn 10. So Robin Frijns' time is not representative of what the car's potential is, but again, he'll be running on a set of tyres that has done probably a fair amount of running, and it's just to give him his time behind the wheel this morning.
New car up into 4th place overall. It's the TalkSport WRT, the black Mercedes. Oscar Tunio, Berkay Bessler, the Turkish racer, on board this weekend, but Marvin Dietz, who's just moved up into that 4th place, 0.6 of a second down on the ultimate pace, but that's the first improvement into the top 10 for quite some while. So it's Mercedes, 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 the top 4 positions.
Bit emphatic, one might say, but that's what we have right now. We've got half an hour to go. And of course, this is just, you might say, homework, as we look, the 82, the new BMW M4, and get used to it because we're going to see a lot more of it in future seasons to come.
And this is a car that's been raced twice already by Philipp Eng and Augusto Farfus, but the third of the trio is Jesse Krohn, the Finnish driver, long-time BMW racer. He's having his first racing taste this weekend, and very, very strong driver lineup, but it's a question of, is the car going to be good under the belt? It's 28th fastest at the moment, and it's down on the very best of the Mercedes, which is the BMW's, the M6, the number 34 car from Walkenhorst. Jake Dennis on board now, sharing with David Pittard and Nick Iannoli. David is the most experienced of that trio with the M6, but Jake Dennis, let's see what he can do. But right now, quick times, we're about to get another quicker time further down the order. Another Mercedes finding some form, the 57 entry from Winwood Racing. Just two drivers, Michael Grenier and Russell Ward, on board that this weekend, and that should be about to move up the charts. It's down to 26, should get into the top half of the field, but traffic suddenly a little bit of a problem for the BMW M4 right in the middle of the bunch there.
Again, it's something you're going to have to deal with, because there are 47 cars here this weekend, and in that 3-hour endurance event you will going to come across pockets of 5, 6, 7 or 8 cars, and if you're a car that's trying to find its way through, lapping some of the back markers or catching back up after your pit stop, look at the front wing, the amount of space literally at the very back of that front wing just to let air escape. I mean, it's more like a sculpture than it is a car.
Yeah, it absolutely looks that way, but it seems the sculpture you want at the moment is...
Warning flag to car 188 track limits.
Yeah, basically.
Well, that's unfortunate for the 188 crew, because they're also slowest of all. That's the Aston Martin from Garage 59, Chris Goodwin, Alex West and Johnny Adam. But car that's just broken into the top 10, Michael Grenier. I've just been talking about the 57 Mercedes from Winwood Racing. And
last warning for car 14 track limits. Last warning 14.
14, Emil Frijns. Now this is a car that's leading the Silver Cup class quite handsomely. Alex Fontana Rolf in Aitken and Ricardo Feller. Yes, this is practice. Yes, it's not qualifying, it's not the race, but penalties will start coming their way. But just to finish the point, now Mercedes have the first 4 cars. They've got 7th place with Michael Grenier. And that's an impressive showing in the top 10. And there is the Winwood car. So it rather disappears, doesn't it, in its sort of its livery. It's not bright, it's not showy, but it's effective.
I like it. I mean, it's got a very stealth look about it. Just a combination of the colours, particularly the blue highlights, just offset the sort of that grey, matte grey or whatever tone it is. So it comes through the last turn. So a personal improvement in sector 2, and remains in 7th position. Dropped away a little bit in that final sector. 146.581 against a 146.0.
Yeah, but those are two laps with a little bit of traffic on the second one, within a quarter of a second of each other, and still quicker than another 40 cars behind them. But 46 cars out to play. Still the number 20 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes at the top of the chart. The Pro-Am entry, but it was set very much by the Pro in that. That's Dominic Baumann sharing with Valentin Pierberg, and the third of the trio is Martin Conrad, but that time set very early on. And another Mercedes in a rather more obvious livery. This is the one Sam DeHaan's driving from Ram Racing. This is the car that ended up punted into the gravel on the opening lap of one of the 2 Sprint Cup races at Brands Hatch, with Adam Christodoulou on board, but looking fairly good at the moment, but down in 35th position, overall 2 seconds down on the ultimate pace.
Well, a small improvement for one of the Iron Links Ferraris, Rivera in the 71 car. They have made a small improvement up to 22nd position. So Eliseo Rivera, and the 51 car is the car that really is the focal point for the Iron Links team this weekend. So 35 position, the 69 Mercedes in 35th position. So that is Sam DeHaan along with Rob Collard, Fabian Schiller.
Yeah, I think there's more to come from that car, most certainly. So just this time, the best time, 1 minute 45.468 seconds, standing good by 0.13 of a second from another Mercedes. So it's still the SPS Automotive Performance car. Any further improvements for Sam DeHaan on this lap? Not looking too likely. Still sounds magnificent. It just always makes me smile when I hear the Mercedes rumble. It's just something very, very special indeed, and I love the distinctive engine notes.
What I would like to hear is the scream of another V8. That would be the 51 Iron Links Ferrari, which is the championship leading car at this point, which is down in 30th position. Come let a car behind the wheel, but I mean, for me, I don't have any concerns the fact that they're right now 30th overall, because when it comes down to it, you can expect those competitors to be much, much further up.
No, entirely so, but when one looks down the timing screens, you look at the laps completed. The car that's fastest has done 22 laps, the next has done 23, 27, 28 for the car in 4th. 6 laps, parked in the pits, job done. Marco Mapelli, they're taking it cool, taking it calm. Now I've been talking about Lamborghinis. Let's go down to the 114 Emil Frey Racing Garage. We've got a driver who's back racing again, Jack Aitken.
Jack, welcome back. Great to see you once again with us. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a lot better, thanks. It's been, 2.5 months since Spa, and the first month and a half was really slow with the recovery, but recently I've been just getting better and better every day.
And is the shoulder bearing up okay in the car?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm still missing a little bit of strength, but it's generally holding up fine. I have to be a bit careful with my back, especially with the driver changes, but yeah, it's going okay.
Excellent stuff. And let's talk about the pace of the car, because some people are talking about struggles with grip. How are you feeling the car set up?
Yesterday the track was very green. It's quite cold now, relatively, for Barcelona. Just watch your back. Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle to get the car in the window, I think, for everybody. You know, I see cars fishtailing around every time I'm out there, so it's going to be entertaining, I think, in quality.
Absolutely. Well, have a great weekend, and once again, welcome back. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, good to have Jack back. Car sitting 10th on the table, so they're sort of there or thereabouts this morning, but that is a thought, actually, the driver change. Maybe he should go and do the third stint, because being dragged out as he would be after the first stint or the second stint for a driver change could be what he doesn't need.
A bit of smoke up there into turn 4. Anyway, great to have Jack Aitken back again. It was a horrendous incident at Spa in the early part, I think lap 10 of the 24-hour event. And the shoulder that he was referring to, he had a collarbone fracture which has been plated, but undoubtedly there's an element of tenderness, and of course when you have to pull down tight on the seat belts, as you're required to do, it will put an additional pressure. As Arthur Rouge in that car that would be driven by Jack Aitken a little bit later makes his way up through turn 9.
And also, one has to remember that Jack was racing single-seaters through his career until 2020. He was doing Formula 2, placed very well in that series, and this is his first season. He took the GT3 racing like a duck to water. It's not always a given, but last year, of course, he did the Formula 2 for Campos and one race for Williams. One does lose that in the midst of time, but nothing open for him on the F1 world this year, so he came across the GTs and really got in and got stuck in, and it was so disappointing when, halfway through your first season you have to sort of park it for a while. But John, have you ever had a shoulder injuries? Because they really are very slow to heal. You think you're healing and you just put a little too much weight on them and then they go again. Well,
I mean, a shoulder injury, primarily a collarbone. The fact that the collarbone in Jack Aitken's case was actually a metal plate was attached to it would give it stability, allowing the process in nature called callousing, and that's a form of it's like your human body welds the two bones together, and the metal plate will keep those positions stable. In 2.5 months after an operation is not a considerable length of time. There will still be a little bit of tenderness, but the bone will be secure and strong. I mean, I know Bruce is a rugby player, you get beaten up and battered all the time, so maybe slightly different kind of how the injury would radiate once you get back into your given sport.
It was drinking in the clubhouse afterwards that I found the hardest. With a weak arm, had to move to the left arm, but no, it's dreadful. You think you're getting better, and then it just doesn't shake out. Great rear view from the Bentley. Looking back, so much vibration in the rear wing, John. You were talking about drivers going over the curbing and setting that off.
I mean, the shake on the rear wing of the Bentley is just enormous. I mean, whether it has any effect on what the aerodynamics are doing, whether it's beneficial or detrimental, it's difficult to tell, but certainly it looks to be a wing that is, let's say, not as rigidly attached, or the structure itself is not as rigid as some of the others, and the Lamborghini literally can only get as close as it's getting without actually coming into contact with the back of the Bentley coming through these last couple of corners onto the pit lane in this instance.
It's very interesting though, looking at that Bentley wing moving around, and the rear wing, from my eye on the Lamborghini, looked rock solid in comparison. Wasn't moving anywhere.
I mean, that's what we're looking back, but the camera's very close to the Bentley rear wing, so it picks up any movement whatsoever. But to me, it is, let's say, more flexible in the way it's mounted than maybe other cars are in the field. As we look at the Alex Aka, the attempt to racing number 99.
He's running in the Silver Cup class, and he's got an outside shot at the title here. He's got 61 points. That's 24 points down the fella Fontana in Aitken. Oh, hello.
There we go. Now that's an example of why drivers are getting pinged for track limit abuses. That was not just 2 wheels over, that was 4 wheels. In fact, they'd gone all the way across the red and white demarcation, then the green, and then onto black tarmac. So I would not be surprised if that's repeated. And again, very wide out of turn 5 for Alex Acker.
So if he's coming here hoping to win the Silver Cup, he's got this 24-point deficit, and doing things like that at turn 3.
Oh, there we go. Our cameraman was right on the money with that one.
Yeah, great work there. So those sort of things could be the setback that removes his outside chance in the Silver Cup version. Sector of the Endurance Series. But again, it's good to be talking. Didn't get a camera that we saw on car 11 that had a spin at turn 4. Car 11, the Kessel Racing Ferrari, the red and white version. Tim Coleman, Francesco Zollo and Giorgio Roda. So we got away from the glare of public, but a message on the screen has alerted us to that.
Well, right now, there is no movement, certainly upwards. In the last, 5 or so minutes, there's been 3 cars have fallen down a position. Earl Bamber in the 22 Porsche, Marco Mapelli in the 63 Lamborghini, and Enrique Chavez in the 77 Lamborghini. But everything is now looking either red, meaning the teams and drivers are in the pits doing either a driver change or making some technical changes, or just not going any quicker.
So let's go down to the pits for the SPS Automotive team and hear from Dominic Baumann.
Dominic, you guys are clearly running very well, currently P1.
Yeah, it's a good preparation already. Already yesterday we had a good pace, and I hope we can keep it up. We do some long run testing in the afternoon, but until now everything seems good.
Do you think it is reflective of do you think this is a reflective pace of qualifying and race?
Yeah, I think we are everything is on the table, but more important is the race. Obviously, it's 3 hours, but I think we have a good car for qualifying, and I hope so for the race as well.
Thank you.
Bruce, let's just listen to Dominic Baumann. That car, 20, quickest car out. It did its best lap on its first flying lap, and that was the best part of an hour and whatever number of minutes ago. And the car has done now a total of 26 laps, hasn't managed to beat that time. It's sort of one of the, again, referring to the circuit itself, it's an anomaly of the circuit when you go out with a fresh-ish set of tyres and you can get a clean flying lap in your first flying lap, job done. You might as well park it in terms of going any quicker, but of course it's not about being quick overall, it's about being quick throughout a 3-hour race. And that's what the team will now be working on, is looking at where can we find continuity of that time over the longer time, the duration.
Yeah, exactly, and they know that Dominic will be their fastest gun. He's the pro in that car. Valentin Pierberg just bringing it in and sharing with Martin Conrad as well. But they know, of course, when we get to qualifying, all 3 drivers have to go out and run their stint. So I would guess that Dominic will go and set his fastest time in that first session tomorrow morning, and then right now it's all about Valentin Pierberg and Martin Conrad getting more and more comfortable with the car, and as well as the team thinking about how will it run, how will it be kind to its tyres or otherwise through the course of the 3-hour race. And a lot of the teams already fretting. It was Jules Gounon who pointed out the really critical thing is going to be how the tyres are performing at the end of a 1-hour stint. That's what they're working towards.
Yeah, and again, just to say, looking down, no indication of any improvement, 15 minutes remaining. So the time set on the first flying lap of the number 20 Mercedes-Benz SPS Automotive Performance, and Felipe Fraga in the 88 ASP, Simon Gachet in the sister car, and then Oscar Tunio in the 4th of the Mercedes lock out front 2 rows of the grid, if that was going to be the grid for Sunday's 3-hour endurance.
They really did, and I can't believe you've overlooked another Mercedes going faster than before. The Mad Panda car, Rick Broikers, has just moved it up to 36th position, but that's got a way to fight. That was the only car to improve last time around. Not much happening.
I mean, I can barely look that far across on the tail. I mean, can I just about see? I just about can see a green arrow pointing upwards. And that car, again, way below where its natural pace would be.
Well, let's take a look. Turn 3, exit of the corner, and The SPS Automotive performance car, fastest in the world, equal fastest in that, with Karim Ojay. That Buisson Gignac cars featuring in the straight line speed trap. That was, I think, second or third in that. And very good at the exit of turn 3. That's the corner where a few minutes ago we saw Alex Arca off into the boonies and beyond. And certainly that is a corner where a lot of drivers are being pinged for track limit excess.
Interesting that, you know, there's 3 different cars all covered by the same amount of speed at the exit. I'm not surprised that Dominic Baumann, the 20 Mercedes, it was Valentin Pierberg, but it was Dominic Baumann no doubt set the time. But what's interesting is the Buisson Gignac BMW matched it.
Yeah, good in the straight line, and all this could change, even though drivers right now are just working through their program rather, because suddenly the track conditions are going to start changing. John is throwing his hands in the air because sunshine is almost entirely around the circuit. It's bright.
Exactly, as the man would have said. Sun is beginning to break through, and that will, again, 13 minutes ago, will have a bearing on what the track delivers. I mean, it is almost, you could measure the performance either upwards or downwards by a degree one way or the other in terms of ambient and track temperature.
Right, will we get a little scramble for quicker times? I don't see the top teams being lured into that. They know what they've got to do, and don't forget the 63 Orange 1 FFF racing team Lamborghini, fastest yesterday morning, second in the afternoon. They're falling down the order. They're down in 15th position, but they've had their coffee, they've had their biscuits. They're wondering what to do now. They're looking ahead to this afternoon session. They parked early. They were confident that they know what they want, but they had a grip of their car yesterday in both sessions, whereas we heard from other teams they didn't quite have it. The 32 Audi, for example, wasn't really in the mix. I think it was 20th, yes, and 13th. They've had to come out today and work through the session, pound through the laps, John, to try and find the setup that's going to be good, not just for qualifying, but for the race as well. They've had a big program to work on.
Yeah, they've done 31 laps. I mean, it's only the Aston Martin 97. They've completed 34 laps, 30, some have been up to 35. So 35 would appear to be the maximum number of laps pretty much any team have completed, with just 12 minutes of the session remaining, and certainly nobody in the top 20 looking as if they're going to go out and make any further improvements. Down in 20th place is 26 Centerlock Racing is Dennis Lind. Again, somebody who one assumes would be naturally further up, but it's the same story. There's probably about 30 cars that should be in the top 10, and who's going to determine which of them? Now there is Charlie Eastwood in the Oman Racing Aston Martin.
And just outside, he's the top Aston Martin runner, just outside the top 10 in 11th place. The highest number of laps, actually, we just saw it come into the pits. Mad Panda Motorsport, 39 laps they got on the board, but they haven't got into the top page of our timing screen, and then page 2 and 36th position overall, but they have got the laps in. Great to have that Aston Martin from Oman Racing Team, bolstering the number of Aston Martins in the field. And Charlie Eastwood right now, though his lap times are not looking good, he has actually got that treat. He has got space around him, space to do what he needs without interruption. But lovely livery. I quite like that orange and white combination.
So it was Charlie Eastwood who set that Aston Martin 97's time some time ago, and he's now back again behind the wheel, and he'll wonder what has happened to my car. Where is my pace and performance gone? Well, it's probably because it's worn out. It's set of Pirelli rubber, and the track has changed, and we're actually beginning to see a hint of blue breaking through. And I know it seems, why you're talking about the weather so much, but this is one of the most sensitive circuits anywhere in the world, let alone here in Europe, to ambient and track and ambient weather temperature conditions.
Now, I haven't really seen too much of this Silver Cup runner, the Julian Apostolos-driven Team Allied Racing Porsche, a very distinctive race livery. Unfortunately, the time not too distinctive at the moment. It's running in the Silver Cup, but it's down in 31st position overall. The top Silver Cup runner is the 87 Mercedes that's sitting in third place, Simon Gachet, setting a time in that very, very early on. But Apostolos, very, very tidy young racer, and again, just no improvements going to be coming his way on this lap. Pretty much nobody anywhere on the screen is improving at the moment. 10 minutes and a few seconds remaining. Top two runners sitting in the pits. That's the number 20 SPS Automotive Mercedes that Dominic Baumann set the time on very early on. Valentin Pierberg brought that in the pits. Felipe Fraga, the number 88 Mercedes, second fastest, also in the pits. Michael Grenier, who moved up to 7th from way down the charts in the number 57 Winward Racing Mercedes, also in the pits. Bit of a theme going on at the moment. 33 Ferrari from Rinaldi Racing, 1-2 from them this weekend. That's the easier one to spot. Well, actually, it's the harder one to spot because the sister car is in the bright green, but this red and black combination. Benja Ites, the Chilean racer, at the wheel at the moment, showing with Fabrizio Crestani and David Perel. So a very cosmopolitan crew yet again. Drivers from 3 continents in that car. South Africa, representing Africa, Chile for South America, and of course Crestani from Europe.
Sitting just outside the top 20 in 21st position, so let's have a little look and see. There's 3 and a bit tenths down in sector 1. Not much more will be lost as he exits the run down from turn 9 all the way down. The second sector time is completed just as you come down into the braking zone into turn 10. There we go, at 1.2. So he's lost the best part of 0.8 of a second in that between first and second sectors. So, well, it's I suppose one might say par for the course at this phase of a 1.5 hour session.
Certainly seems to be the case. Now we've seen through the turn 3 speed trap, the AWS speed trap, and the exit of turn 3, that is, and the ultimate speed down the start-finish straight. The number 10 BMW was looking pretty good, placed well in those, but also possibly under investigation, or definitely under investigation for being too quick in the pit lane, as is the number 51 Ferrari. And this is potentially interesting because that is the Iron Links Ferrari that's leading the championship. That's the Pierre Guidi, Lerga and Nielsen car. So just things they have to keep an eye on.
And the 51 Ferrari, just for those that follow the successes of Iron Links, is still in 30th position. It's running behind the 71 car, which is currently in 22nd position, which is Alex Fauco, I should say, behind the wheel of that particular car at the present time.
Yeah, and nearly 2 seconds down, 1.86 seconds down on the best time by the SPS Automotive Performance. Number 20 Mercedes still at the top of the charts. We're looking at the car at the bottom of the charts right now. Alexander West has taken over the 188 Aston Martin, and John is about to jump in.
Well, we've got a bit of green in the top 10 because Arthur Rouget in the 114 Emile Frey Racing Lamborghini has now managed to drag that car up into 8th position. First time we've had green in the top 30 since, well, half an hour ago nearly now.
Yeah, we had the Winward Mercedes coming in, but now obviously that's good to see. The Winward Mercedes is 1 position further up in 7th place overall. That was the most recent improvement before Arthur Rouget got the 114 Lamborghini up into the top of the shop. It's now getting properly bright as the cars come out of the final corner. The pit lane's still in the shade of the grandstand, but out on the track, as you can see as we look at Alexander West over the top of the hill at turn 9, neat and tidy coming down the infield straight, but the clock is against him. I think this is about get your laps in, Alexander, and then we'll go again for another hour and a half later today, kicking off at 1:40. My memory serves correctly, which for once it does. So plenty more track time for the drivers today. Tomorrow morning we go into qualifying at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then of course we have the 3 hours of the race, but working towards the greater good, I think, is the story.
Yeah, Alexander West and the Aston Martin 198 following the Orange FFF Racing 1 team Stefano Constantini Lamborghini.
Right, the 51 Ferrari, John, we mentioned the fact it's down in 30th position. Com Ledegaard brought it in the pits. Let's hear from Com.
We've just seen you get out of the car not long ago. Are you struggling a bit with setup? The timings aren't quite where you want them to be.
I mean, I don't know if we are struggling. The car is not that bad, but we are missing some pace. So we are missing quite a lot of pace. So I think we need to find somewhere. And at the moment, the only power we have is in the setup. So we try to, let's say, to create or recreate something, even if the car looks quite okay. I mean, to drive as a personal feeling. So yeah, we struggle with the pace, but we need to find somewhere.
What can you do for the session?
Sorry?
What can you do?
At the moment, we need to stay calm, to take some data. We did collect a lot with a lot of setup split we did.
and even if in terms of lap time it was no big differences from that, maybe we can try to summarize it and to try to take the best out of it.
Well, you've still got another session this afternoon before qualifying really counts tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be the session where we will have to make a big decision afterwards, because then we go for quali, and quali you cannot really try anything on tire degradation to prepare the race, and we need to find on next session what we will do for the race.
Cool, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
You know, there's 2 Ferraris from the Iron Lynx team, 3 altogether, but that's the ladies' car is the 3rd car. The 71, the sister car to the 51, has been consistently quicker, both through the 2 sessions yesterday and so far here today. I don't know whether the 2 cars are identical or whether there's a difference in setup, but maybe they need to think about, well, why has one car been consistently quicker than the car that really is the focal point of the effort by Iron Lynx here?
It's a strange one, but don't forget we saw this 2 weekends ago with the TalkSport WRT Mercedes. The Maro Engel Lucas Stoltz car was all at sea. The sister car was going beautifully well, and then they turned it around for qualifying. Maybe the same can happen here, but it is a concern, and certainly you felt the energy had been sucked out of Con there. The slight depression, a malaise almost hanging over him.
The 31 Audi cruising around for no apparent reason, just over 3.5 minutes remaining, and normally you wouldn't come in at that level of pace, so there's clearly a reason why the Audi 31 is not running at what I would call a natural race pace. Car, Frank Bird behind the wheel, down in 28th position as you go back to Maro Engel in the number 4. And that car currently 13th position on a 1:46.548. And that's just over a second away from the time set by Dominic Baumann away at the beginning of the session. In the number 20 SPS Performance Mercedes. So Maro Engel remains in 13th position, and he's got this lap and another one maybe before checkered flag will conclude this 1.5 hour session.
It's funny, when you don't get to look at a car a lot on screen, you start to presume it hasn't done lots of laps, but this is a car, Maro Engel car, the number 4 Mercedes. It's got 37 on the board. That's one of the cars that's had more running than the others. We've got a couple of cars that have gone over 40 laps, 42 laps, the number 16 Lamborghini from the Grasser Racing team, but that hasn't helped them too much. They're down in 43rd position out of the 46 runners. But Maro Engel car, you know, one feels if there's a quick time to come from that car, it could come, but it's not going to come in this session, surely, with 2 minutes and a bit of small change left. He has got clear track, and actually looks as though he's putting pedal to metal there.
Well, that's the number 5 HRT, Indy Donche, Patrick Assenheimer, Hubert Haub. And it's Hubert Haub, the team owner, I believe, boss, who's behind the wheel of the number 5 right now.
Yeah, Hubert's career has gone on and on and on, but he has a very successful career in his own right away from racing as a builder of very fine buildings, and that enables him to have the team. He's got his cake and he's eating it, I think. Well, why not? He's worked hard, get it to work. But down in 27th position at the moment, but always the support car here, and there's no support needed for Maro Engel, Lucas Stoltz and Nico Bastian in the number 4. They're always going to be at the front end of the field.
So just under 1.5 minutes remaining, and it'll be this lap for Hubert Haub, and one more. So the second half of this 1.5 hour session really has been just going through the motions of making changes, drivers in, drivers out. Looks to me, from what we saw on Friday, that the pace that the 63 Lamborghini had has not really been challenged. We got within about 0.2 of a second with the time from Dominic Baumann as the 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari exits into the garage, and that's their session complete.
Yeah, well, they've got one of the easier jobs this weekend, sitting on an 18-point championship lead in the Pro-Am Cup, but it's never done until it's done. So certainly for Chris Fraga, he's really aware of that. Now, Tim Coman also competing in the Pro-Am Cup for Kessel Racing. Front end of the car, the Ferrari just washing out a little bit there, but Tim, not a bad run, 25th fastest. in the grouping, and just marginally slower by a few fractions, tiny fractions of a second than another Ferrari running in the class. That's the 488 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, entered by Jeroen Bleekemolen, Christian Hoek and Manuel Lauk. So rare weekend. We've got Jeroen, the Dutch racer, back on this side of the Atlantic. It's a very, very busy year indeed for Tim Coman, and like so many drivers, look at the split time there. He's nearly a second down on the first sector alone. That tells you what you need to know. The checkered flag is out on the start-finish line. Still a chance perhaps for a few more transgressions on the track limits, but for most of the drivers, they're just starting to bring their cars in. So it hasn't been an eventful session, John, but a lot of drivers have got a lot of laps under their wheels, and some of them unfortunately might be coming out the other end with less knowledge of the car setup or what works than they had going in, because the track conditions I don't think changed in the way they expected it. When we started, it was grey skies, but with the sun approaching, but the sun only came through in the final 10 minutes. So I don't think the track went the way that some of the engineers might have predicted.
No, at this time of year, into the middle of October, you're not going to get those sort of very rapid rises in the ambient temperature that you get maybe in the middle of the summer. Nevertheless, it's just it's part of the history of this racetrack that it is ultra tire sensitive, but that may not explain, you know, performances such as the 51 Ferrari down in 30th position, the 71, the sister car, down in 22nd position, then 15th place is the 63 Lamborghini Marco Mapelli, and that's the car that was quickest overall on Friday. Its time today is a 1:47.7. Yesterday it did a 1:45.2. So where did that time go? Well, because the team are doing their homework. That's essentially what they're up to in this basically the second half of the 1.5 hour session.
Yeah, I think it would have confused. A lot of teams may have got it right. Maybe the right approach was to be as confident as yesterday's fastest runners, the orange one FFF Racing Team Lamborghini 63. They did a handful of laps, 6 in all, parked it in the garage, and have been able to watch what the others are doing and maybe spend more time analysing the data. They don't have to do anything until 1:40 this afternoon, but for some teams they will have worked their way forward in terms of finding a setup. For others, maybe it's been slightly confusing for them, but they know they've got to be on their toes, because when we get to qualifying tomorrow, it's going to be very busy out on track. 46 cars crowding into this circuit, John. It's going to be crowded, and many a good lap will be interrupted by someone just getting in the way. But here is the order at the end. Dominic Baumann set the time early on to put the number 20 Mercedes at the top of the chart for SPS Automotive performance, but by 0.136 of a second faster than the car that's been very quick in all 3 practice sessions so far. The 88 Mercedes, second today. It was fastest yesterday afternoon and second yesterday morning. They're looking strong. The sister car of Gashay, Jure and Tereshchenko, just 0.4 of a second down in 3rd place overall. 4th place also Mercedes, Marvin Dienst, Berkay Bessler and Oscar Tunio, so looking good for the 3-pointed start. The best of the rest, we suddenly had Lamborghinis. 5th and 6th, the 114 of Arthur Rougier, Consta Lapalainen, and the returning Jack Aitken and Norbert Siedler, Giacomo Altoe and Alberto Costo in 6th place overall. Best of the Porsches, Christian Engelhardt in 7th, best of the Audis. Robin Frijns, the championship challenger, along with Charles Weerts and Dries van Tor, and the numbers go on down, but as you can see when you get down to some of the numbers at the bottom of the screen, 30th position overall, the car leading the championship, 1.86 seconds in arrears. That was a confusing session for the 51 Ferrari crew. Alessandro Pierguidi, Côme Ledegar and Nicholas Nielsen, they certainly will be having a lot of consideration down in the pit lane and have to be super confident if they're not starting to be a little bit concerned about finding pace here at the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And going down to 45th position overall. Doesn't take us to the bottom of the charts. We've got 46 cars this weekend, and it's the last of the Iron Links trio that brings up the rear of the field. But it's been an interesting morning at Barcelona, but for some people here I think it may be slightly more confusing than when the cars went out, when it was looking as though it was going to be a little bit bright at the start of the session, but the sunshine didn't really materialise until the end. The BMW M4 racing here, there's the second in the shot, and the Evo Audi, that's the one with the different rear wing and different underside aerodynamics. They're racing here, they're not going to score points, but they're putting in mileage ahead of next year. And it was about finding space on the track, finding grip on the track, and that was the hardest thing of all to find, and finding where the track limits were. Some had trouble with that, some done for speeding in the pit lane as well. So many things to attend to, but with 46 cars coming out to play, dealing in tenths of a second, it was very technical indeed. Bed in the brakes, get the tyres right, save a set of tyres for qualifying. We haven't seen the true picture. We may start to see that in this afternoon's 1.5 hour session. But the bragging rights go to the Mercedes crews. They're at the top 4 positions. To SPS Automotive Performance, they are at the top of the table. And for a lot of the teams, an awful lot of consideration about what they need. There was one spin in the entire session, that was it. The Kessel Racing Ferrari at turn 4 got going again, no trouble at all. But it was about staying off the curbs, keeping the tyres sweet and working towards the programme, building towards qualifying tomorrow morning. That's it for now.